Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m. Does anyone need to use their ear before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'm in Dallas. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5SC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, W5SC.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too, over air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Recent astronomical discoveries. 5. Discussion topic of the evening. 6. What's Up. 7. Space exploration and space history. 8. Constellation of the week. 9. Space launches of the week. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A, and 12. 73 round. All amateurs listed licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. All right, I need to find the list. Stand by. Could somebody help me out and tell me where the list is? I'm not seeing it on the website.
Separately, inside BB.
Thank you. I have it. Okay, check-ins are KE5 ICX, that's Tom, KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, K5 KTX, Kelly in Point, Texas, WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas, N5LIG, Dale in Little Elm, NT5TM, Tony in Bird City, N5BB, Bill in Irving, NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth, K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, KI5PGM, Travis in McKinney. All right, do we have any people that want to check in over the air? Please come now.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, Rich and Rockwell, AG 5 PM.
This is Alpha Golf 9er Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, AG9ST.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James, and Carrollton.
Kilo 5, Golf Tango Charlie, Todd in East Dallas.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, Low Power.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Flight 17.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Okay, we have AG5PM, Rich, AG9, Sierra Golf, Antonio, KG5, WVL, James, KG6, TC, Todd, WB4, MFI, Ted, N5OF, Clay, and AA5, AH, Rob. Do we have anybody on Echolink that wants to check in now?
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, New Weatherford.
Again, sorry, my call sign was K5GTC, Kilo 5, Golf Tango Charlie. Thank you.
F5 PDS Billy. And let me think. KD5LQD Jimmy. If I've missed anybody or if there are any more check-ins, please come now. Okay, well, we'll pick up some more check-ins in a bit. We have, let me see. Let me get my place here. So sorry. Do we have any announcements evenings net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brenda. First, it was a nice day today, and, hopefully there'll be a lot more nice days coming up. Please enjoy public service out in the mild fall weather. Turkey Trot sign-ups. This is our big public service event that our club supports on Thanksgiving morning. Turkey Trot sign-ups are available at w5fc.org. I hope you'll join in the fun and get signed up there, and Travis will put you to work. Now, if you'd like to do something sooner than Thanksgiving, that's a long ways off, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be having a radio play day at Spring Creek Forest Preserve at 10 o'clock a.m. on Saturday, October 26th. This is a shine-only event. There's not a lot of shelter there, but if the weather is great, please see w5fc.org for more information. Tonight's afternoon movie discussion will focus on the independent sci-fi movie Everything Beautiful is Far Away from 2017. Was it any good? I don't know, but you probably do. If you watched the movie, or even if you didn't, check in and share your opinion tonight at about 10:30. This Sunday will feature a Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air at 7 p.m. That's open to any ham who wants to share what's been going on in their ham world. And a Racy's training net at 8 p.m. Only Racy's appointees can check in, but you might find the program interesting. Everyone is welcome to listen. And of course, this Monday will be the second helping of Ham Fix-Ins. Join us at 7 p.m. with your recipes, cooking tips, and kitchen stories. Please remember, for your safety, eat before the net. This is NT5TM, back to net control.
Thank you, Tony. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Texas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net. We're all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new online. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at AMSATnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage you active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSATnet East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz. PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is in net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC ClubNet, so no AMSET East night. Dallas AMSET Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7. Check the W5FC.org website. This coming Monday will be Ham Fixins, 7 p.m. And we'll be discussing food and recipes and cooking tips. Anybody is welcome to come. Saturdays are the night of nets where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. CutNet, 7 to 8 p.m. All things Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also Swap Meet, Workie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests. Alternating net control each week. Skynet from 9 to 10 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also, news and information, satellite passes, and the Constellation of the week. Join this popular net about ham's second most favorite hobby, astronomy. Alternating net controls. Afterglow Movie Net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. We watch an assigned science fiction movie and then review it for about 90 minutes. We discuss plot, characterization, special effects, music, and answer the question, will I dare watch this movie ever again? Everyone is welcome to check in, even if you haven't seen the movie, which might actually be a plus. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Meeting on the Air, MODA. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. Daily, we have the ARRL net, the National Traffic System Training net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving WA5CFK repeater, 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. So there's tonight's Afterglow. I am going to ask Tom, KE5ICX, if he'd like to read this thing and keep us up to date.
Well, certainly, Brenda. I'll be happy to do that. Hello from Corpus Christi. Leonard was a computer nerd, but not your average computer nerd. Yes, he loved computers. He also was a bit odd when it came to understanding what a headless computer was, thinking he could never throw away that head. It could be useful someday. Leonard was an idiot. The head of his headless computer lived in the backpack, where he carried with him wherever he went. The went part was walking between cities in a desert. Yes, desert. Apparently there were all the rage after the war between Detroit and Chicago. After the devastating parking lot wars of 2040, people no longer had cars or country size. Just a guy walking with a head from a headless computer. Join us for a movie that actually got good reviews. Not sure why. Everything Beautiful is Far Away from 2017 tonight at 10:30 p.m. But you kind of already knew that because Tony covered it, but not with that wonderful narrative. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Well, that sounds very interesting. I kind of wish I had seen that movie instead of the one I did. All right, next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call him Chaz, KF5JHA, to tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is KF5JHA Chaz. Just want to let you know that if you are really wanting to see some pretty pictures, you need to sign on to our video link. Go to w5fc.org and go to the video link because I've got some pretty pictures I'm going to show later on in another segment. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 25th. That's 6 days from now. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. And there's also a Zoom component. The featured speaker is some guy from Fort Worth. I can't remember what he's going to be talking about, but it's going to be interesting. Now, Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the third Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Do we have a ham radio operator at stargazing that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign, if there is. Nothing. I guess we don't have anybody out there. But, you know, there's a comet that's in the evening sky, and some places in North Texas have been able to see it, and I'll show you some pictures on the video version of Skynet in just a little bit. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's back to you.
Thank you, Chaz. Next up, National Space Society events and activities. I'm going to call on Bill, N5BB, to let us know what's going on there.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Membership Director I'm now the Vice President and the Member at Large. Let me say that again. That position's changed. I'm now the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. You can reach me at space@byram.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held in about 3 weeks on Sunday, November the 10th. On the last Friday evening of each month from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The next space rendezvous will be held this upcoming Friday, October the 25th. Our local NSS chapter, that's National Space Society chapter, website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just go into Facebook and type National Space Society of North Texas in the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, you can reach me. That's Bill, N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at my QRZ email address, or at space@byrom.net, SPACE@BYROM.net. Thank you very much. Back to Net Control. This is N5BB.
All right, thank you. Next up is going to be recent astronomical discoveries. Just give me a minute. I want to have to pull up the original article. My apologies. It's just a title in the we don't have the whole article in our Skynet text. I had to go back to the original. So here we are. The origin of most meteorites finally revealed. An international team led by 3 researchers from the CNRS, the European Southern Observatory, ESO Europe, and Charles University in the Czech Republic has successfully demonstrated that 70% of all known meteorite falls originate from just 3 young asteroid families. These families were produced by 3 recent collisions that occurred in the main asteroid belt 5.8, 7.5, and about 40 million years ago. The team also revealed the sources of other types of meteorites. With this research, the origin of more than 90% of meteorites has now been identified. This discovery is detailed in 3 papers, a first published on 13 December 2024 in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics, and 2 new papers to be published on October 16th, 2024 in Nature. While more than 70,000 meteorites are known, only 6% have been clearly identified by their composition, chrondites, as coming from the Moon, Mars, or Vesta, one of the largest asteroids in the main belt. The source of the other 94% of meteorites, the majority of which are ordinary chondrites, had remained unidentified. So why are these 3 young families the source of so many meteorites? This can be explained by the life cycle of asteroid families. Young families are characterized by an abundance of small fragments left over from collisions. This abundance increases the risk of collision between fragments, and coupled with their high mobility, their escape from the belt, possibly in the direction of Earth. The asteroid families produced by older collisions, on the other hand, are depleted sources of meteorites. The abundance of small fragments that once made them up has naturally eroded and finally disappeared after tens of millions of years. Stand by. Of successive collisions and their dynamic evolution. Thus, Charon, Coronis, and Massalia will inevitably coexist with these sources of meteorites for more recent collisions and eventually give way to them. A method for tracing the family tree of meteorites and asteroids. This historic discovery was made possible by a telescopic survey of the composition of all the major asteroids of the collisional and dynamical evolution of these major families. This approach has been extended to all meteorite families, revealing the processes of the carbonaceous, chondrites, and aclondites, which come in addition to those from the Moon, Mars, and Vesta. Thanks to this research, the origin of more than 90% of meteorites has now been identified. It has also enabled scientists to trace the origin of kilometer-sized asteroids, a size that threatens life on Earth. These objects are the focus of many space missions. Near Shoemaker, Hayabusa 1, Chang'e 2, Hayabusa 2, OSIRIS-REx, DART, Hera, etc. In particular, it appears that the asteroids Ryugu and Bennu, recently sampled by the Hayabusa 2 and OSIRIS-REx missions and studied in laboratories around the world, particularly in France, are derived from the same parent asteroid as the Polana family. The origin of the remaining 10% of known meteorites is still unknown. To remedy this, the team plans to continue their research, this time focusing on characterizing all young families that were formed less than 50 million years ago. This was from ScienceDaily.com, and if you'll stand by, okay, switching back and forth here. Next up is the discussion topic of the evening, but I think what we'll do is see if there are any more check-ins right now. Please come with your call sign and name.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell, and I got a quick comment question. K5JDW.
Okay, K5JDW, John, welcome to the net. Tell us your comment question, please.
Yeah, they cover it later, but I was going to ask when I checked in earlier if the comet is still visible. I understand as time goes on, it's going to get higher and higher, but be fainter and fainter to the naked eye. So if you're going to cover it later, that'll be fine. K5JDW.
Some things to show us. So next, the discussion topic of the evening. This is about the next generation telescopes. A new generation of telescopes will probe the unknown unknowns that could transform our knowledge of the universe. This article is by Richard Massey and is from phys.org. In recent decades, we've learned huge amounts about the universe and its history. The rapidly developing technology of telescopes, both on Earth and in space, has been a key part of this process, and those that are due to start operating over the next 2 decades should push the boundaries of our understanding of cosmology much further. All observatories have a list of science objectives before they switch on, but it is their unexpected discoveries that can have the biggest impact. Many surprising advances in cosmology were driven by new technology, and the next telescopes have powerful capabilities. Still, there are gaps, such as a lack of upcoming space telescopes for ultraviolet and visible light astronomy. Politics and national interests have slowed scientific progress. Financial belts are tightening, and even the most famous observatories. First, Chile Extremely Large Telescope. The biggest new telescopes are being built in the mountains of Chile. The Extremely Large Telescope, ELT, will house a mirror the size of 4 tennis courts under a huge dome in the Atacama Desert. Reflecting telescopes like ELT work by using a primer to collect light from the night sky and reflecting it off other mirrors to a camera. Larger mirrors collect more light and see fainter objects. Next, the Vera C. Rubin Telescope. Another ground-based telescope construction in Chile is the Vera C. Rubin Telescope. Rubin's camera is the largest ever built, the size of a small car and weighing about 3 tons. Its 3,200 megapixels will photograph the whole sky every 3 days to spot moving objects. Over the course of 10 years, these photographs will be combined to form a massive time-lapse video of the universe. Astronomy used to be a physically demanding job requiring travel to remote telescopes and dark sites, but many astronomers began working from home long before COVID. In the late 20th century, major ground observatories started to put into place technology to allow astronomers to control telescopes for observations at night. Stand by. Even when they were not there in person, remote observing is now commonplace, carried out via the internet. The view of any telescope on the ground is limited, though, even if it's on top of a mountain. Launching telescopes into space can get around these limitations. Then there's the Hubble Space Telescope. Its operational history began when the Space Shuttle lifted it above the atmosphere on April 25th, 1990. Hubble got the full 1960s sci-fi treatment. A rocket to launch it, gyroscopes to point it, and electronic cameras instead of photographic film. But one plan fell through. For Hubble to host a commuting astronomer working decidedly away from home. Hubble was designed to take a census of the Milky Way and its neighboring galaxies. Its successor, the James Webb Space Telescope, would study even more distant galaxies. Both have revolutionized our understanding of the universe, but in ways nobody foresaw. Hubble's original plans mentioned none of the discoveries now seen as its greatest hits. Plumes of water erupting from Jupiter's moon Europa, the vortex around black holes, invisible dark matter that holds the universe together, and the dark energy that is pulling it apart. Webb, launched on December 25th, 2021, now spends a third of its time looking at planets around other stars that weren't even known about when it was designed. The stated goal of an expensive telescope is usually just a sales pitch to space agencies, governments, and taxpayers. The Webb telescope should achieve its original science goals, but astronomers have always known that seeing further, finer, or in more colors can achieve so much more. The unexpected discoveries by telescopes are often more significant than the science objectives stated at the outset. For scientists, it's a relief that telescopes go beyond their brief because Hubble and Webb both took more than 25 years from napkin to launch. In that time, new scientific questions arise. The Chandra X-ray Telescope. Building a large space telescope typically takes 2 decades. The Chandra and XMM Newton space telescopes took 23 years and 15 years to build respectively. They were designed to observe X-rays coming from hot gas around black holes and galaxy clusters and were launched very close together in 1999. Hitomi X-ray Satellite. They were followed by Japan's Hitomi X-ray Satellite, which took 18 years to build, and the German ERA instrument. Stand by while I reset. And the German Rosetta instrument on Russia's Spectre RG Space Observatory, which took 20 years. Similar timescales apply to the European Space Agency's Hipparchus and Gaia Space Telescopes, which have mapped all the stars in the Milky Way. The Kobe and Planck missions to study the microwave light afterglow of the Big Bang also took 2 decades. Precise dates depend on how you count, and a few exceptions have been faster, better, and cheaper. The national space agencies are generally risk-averse and slow when developing these projects. Wavelength spectrum comparison. The latest space telescopes are there for millennials. They were designed at a time when astronomers had measured the universe's newborn expansion following the Big Bang and also its old age accelerating expansion. Their main goal now is to fill the gap because, surprisingly, interpolations from early times to late times don't meet in the middle. The measured dates for the expansion of the universe are inconsistent, as are results for the clumpiness of matter in the cosmos. Both measurements create challenges for our theories of how the universe evolved. Observing the middle age of the universe requires telescopes operating at long wavelengths because light from distant galaxies is stretched by the time it reaches us. So Webb has infrared zoom cameras, while the ESA's Euclid Space Telescope, launched in 2023, and NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, which is set to launch in 2026, both have infrared wide-angle views. Most stars shine in ultraviolet and infrared colors that are blocked by the Earth's atmosphere, as well as the colors our eyes evolved to see. Extra colors are useful. For example, we can weigh stars on the other side of our galaxy because massive stars are bright in the infrared while smaller ones are faint, and they stay that way throughout their lifetimes. However, we know where stars are being born because only young stars emit ultraviolet light. In addition, independent measurements of the same thing are vital for rigorous science. Infrared telescopes can work together and have already made surprising discoveries. But it's not great for diversity that the Webb, Euclid, and Roman space telescopes all see infrared colors. Hubble's visual light camera has just been switched off due to budget cuts. NASA will not swing back to ultraviolet wavelengths until the 2030s, with the Ultraviolet Explorer and Habitable in the way too. Stand by. Data from China's Hubble-class space telescope, Zhenzhen, is unlikely to be shared internationally. And in protest at Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Germany switched off its eRosetta X-ray instrument that had been operating perfectly in collaboration with Russia 1 million miles from Earth. Next, Euclid launch and mission on Falcon 9. Cheap commercial launches may save the day. Euclid was to have lifted off on a Russian Soyuz rocket from a European Space Agency spaceport in French Guiana. When Russians ended operations there in tit-for-tat reprisals, Euclid's launch was successfully switched at the last minute to a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. CubeSat of 6U CubeSat telescopes. If large telescopes can also be folded inside shoebox-sized CubeSat satellites, the lower cost would make it viable for them to fail. Tolerating risk creates a virtuous cycle that makes missions even cheaper. Telescopes are also being tried in innovative locations, such as giant helium balloons and airplanes. One day they might be deployed on the moon where the environment is advantageous for certain types of astronomy. And gravitational lensing, but perhaps the most unusual telescope technology which may bring the most unexpected discoveries is gravitational wave detectors. Gravitational waves are not part of the electromagnetic spectrum, so we can't see them. They are distortions or ripples in space-time caused by some of the most violent and energetic processes in the universe. These might include a collision between two neutron stars, dense objects formed when massive stars run out of fuel, or a neutron star merging with a black hole. Final. If telescopes are our eyes, gravitational wave detectors are our ears. But again, current gravitational wave detectors on our Earth are mere dry runs for the ones astronomers will ultimately deploy in space. Ask what the next generation of observations will discover. I have no idea. That's the author speaking. And that's a good thing. The best science experiments shouldn't just tell us about the things we expect to find, but also the unknown unknowns. All right. Do we have any more check-ins?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Palmer Springs.
Okay, I'd like to welcome K5 Juliet Foxtrot Romeo Jacob. Welcome to the net. Next up, we're going to have What's Up with Chaz, KF5 JHA. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, and Bob the Cat. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and for the next couple of weeks to come, and maybe beyond. Slide Master, that would be our slide changer. Is that the old-fashioned kind of slide that you're changing here, Tom? Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt any time, and it's currently at a brightness of 10 magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just the 2 eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from the very light-polluted location here in this Texas strip. Slide Master, slide number 4. Today, on October the 19th, I was able to take this picture of the sun using a solar filter on the VWO star that I have. Now, large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that you can use your solar eclipse glasses and see them. That's happened several times over the last couple of months. Now, the sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We've talked about the solar cycle in past Skynet before. Now, slide master, slide number 5. Because the sun has been so active, it has sent multiple CMEs of coronal mass ejections toward the Earth, creating the opportunity for Texas to see aurora. There were reports of aurora being seen in our area on October the 10th, so I headed out toward the country. I got to a darker site about an hour after dusk. I understand that the aurora was really bright soon after it got dark, but from Lake Levant, I didn't see the aurora until, I took pictures of it. I didn't see it visually, but I saw pictures of it, and those people should see on this video version of Skynet. I posted those are pretty cool pictures, I thought, anyway. Don't see aurora in North Texas very often. Okay, slide master, slide number 6. There was a comet in the early morning sky in twilight that could be seen with binoculars about 3 weeks ago. T2023 Atlas has now been in the evening sky for about a week. And yes, we can still see it, but probably not from inside the Metroplex. I've never seen it from here in I've been observing it from 3 different lake locations, taking a bunch of pictures. On the video version of Skynet, the picture you see on the right was, on the left was taken by the Canon EOS Rebel camera with a 55mm lens from Lake Ray Roberts on Monday evening. The comet tail is several degrees long in apogee. Now, the picture on the right I took from Lake Hawaii just last night with the ZWO chart. Looking closely at that image, you can actually see what's called the anti-tail, which is in the opposite direction of the tail. It's more complicated to explain what that is, but I'll show you more pictures and share more information about the comet, and maybe, hopefully, Aurora too in the future. Next slide, please.
Node 48902. Timeout.
Slide number 7. The full moon occurred on October 17th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. The third quarter phase of the moon is on October 24th. On October 29th, the moon will be at an apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth is 406,161 kilometers. The new moon is on November the 1st. November the 8th is the date for the first quarter moon. On November the 14th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 360,109 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 8, please. On November the 19th, in the eastern morning sky, the moon and the planet Uranus were in conjunction early this morning, or either late last night or early this morning, either one. Slide master, slide number 9. The moon and Jupiter are in conjunction in the early morning sky on October 21st. That's just in a couple of days from now. And Jupiter's rising just after dark over there in the eastern sky. Slide master, slide number 10. On the night of October 17th and 18th, the peak of the Orion and meteor shower is an hour. The best time to observe meteors is usually the hour before dawn because of the side of the Earth that is running into the debris. If you want to get more information about meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Let me see. Slide master, slide number 11. The early morning sky on October the 23rd, the moon and the planet Mars and the bright star Pollux are in conjunction in the sky. Slide master, slide number 12. On October 26th, the moon and the bright star Regulus are in conjunction in the early morning eastern sky. Slide master, slide number 13. The evening of October the 26th, the planet Venus and the bright star Antares are in conjunction in the southwestern sky. Yep, still can see Antares in the evening sky if you look. And Venus is there too. Venus is that bright thing in the evening sky. Slide master, slide number 14. On October the 29th, the moon and the asteroid Vesta are in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. I can see Vesta with just a pair of 20 by 80 binoculars from inside the city, so you can do this too. This is KF5JHA and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 15. If you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question, you can come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. And JDW, if you've got continuing questions about the comet, please come now too. Nothing. Just to let you know, I had a report from earlier this evening from a person that lives way out in the country near Telephone, Texas. He was able to see the comet visually with just his two eyes and also a pair of binoculars before the moon got too high in the sky, but then the moonlight was too bright. But tomorrow night, the moon won't rise until after it gets dark for a little while, and you might be able to see the comet if you're away from the city lights. Inside the city, probably not see it. But a pair of binoculars, you can maybe pull it out. Saw it with binoculars on the campus of Brookhaven on Wednesday night with just regular binoculars. So hopefully you get a chance to take a look at the comet somehow, one way or another. Slide master, slide number 16. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well. Peripheral World. That's the only one where humans live. And until next time, well, actually, I might be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ. Back to our net control, WB5OZL. That's Brenda.
Thank you, Chaz. And this is WB5OZL. Next, I'm going to call on Kelly, K5KTX, for space exploration and space history. Go ahead, Kelly. Thank you. This is K5KTX, Kelly. Good evening, everyone. NASA's Europa Clipper has embarked on its long voyage to Jupiter, where it will investigate Europa, a moon with an enormous subsurface ocean that may have conditions to support life. The spacecraft launched at 12:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Monday aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket from Launch Pad 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The largest spacecraft NASA ever built for a mission headed to another planet, Europa Clipper also is the first NASA mission dedicated to studying an ocean world beyond Earth. The spacecraft will travel 1.8 billion miles on a trajectory that will leverage the power of gravity assist, first to Mars in 4 months, and then back to Earth for another gravity assist flyby in 2026. After it begins orbiting Jupiter in April 2030, the spacecraft will fly past Europa 49 times. Approximately 5 minutes after liftoff, the rocket's second stage fired up and the payload fairing, or the rocket's nose cone, opened to reveal Europa Clipper. About an hour after launch, the spacecraft separated from the rocket. Ground controllers received a signal soon after, and two-way communication was established at 1:13 p.m. with NASA's Deep Space Network facility in Canberra, Australia. Mission teams celebrated as initial telemetry reports showed Europa Clipper is in good health and operating as expected. The main goal of the mission is to determine whether Europa has conditions that could support life. Europa is about the size of our own moon, but its interior is different. Information from NASA's Galileo mission in the 1990s showed strong evidence that under Europa's ice lies an enormous salty ocean with more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. Scientists also have found evidence that Europa may host organic compounds and energy sources under its surface. If the mission determines Europa is habitable, it may mean there are more habitable worlds in our solar system and beyond than imagined. In 2031, the spacecraft will begin conducting its science-dedicated flybys of Europa. Coming as close as 16 miles to the surface, Europa Clipper is equipped with 9 science instruments and a gravity experiment, including an ice-penetrating radar, cameras, and a thermal instrument to look for areas of warmer ice and any recent eruptions of water. As the most sophisticated suite of science instruments NASA has ever sent to Jupiter, they will work in concert to learn more about the moon's icy shell, thin atmosphere, and deep interior. To power those instruments in the faint sunlight that reaches Jupiter, Europa Clipper also carries the largest solar arrays NASA has ever used for an interplanetary mission. With arrays extended, the spacecraft spans 100 feet from end to end. With propellant loaded, it weighs about 13,000 pounds.
Good evening. The time is 10.
And now moving on to space history this week, beginning October the 14th, 1947, the first manned supersonic flight occurred over the Mojave Desert in California, less than a month after the U.S. Air Force had been created as a separate service. Captain Charles Chuck Yeager piloted USAF aircraft number 46-062, nicknamed Glamorous Glennis for his wife. The airplane was drop-launched from the bomb bay of a B-29 and reached Mach 1.06, or 700 miles per hour. Following burnout of the engine, the plane glided to a landing on a dry lake bed. This was XS-1 flight number 50. The research techniques used for the X-1 program became the pattern for all subsequent X-craft projects. The flight data collected by the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, which was the predecessor for NASA, from the X-1 test then proved invaluable to further U.S. fighter design throughout the latter half of the 20th century. Also on October the 14th, back in 1989, on its third launch attempt in a week, the Space Shuttle Atlantis took to the sky on mission STS-34. The launch heralded a new era in planetary exploration because nestled inside the shuttle's cargo bay was Galileo, the first spacecraft designed to orbit Jupiter. After being deployed from Atlantis, Galileo followed an energy-saving path through the inner solar system, looping past Venus, Earth twice, and 2 asteroids before finally arriving at Jupiter 6 years later. Galileo spent 8 years studying the Jovian system, exponentially increasing our knowledge of Jupiter. And on today's date, October 19th, back in 1910, Subramanian Chandrasekhar was born. He was an Indian-American astrophysicist who spent his professional life in the United States. He was awarded the 1983 Nobel Prize for Physics with William A. Fowler. His mathematical treatment of stellar evolution yielded many of the current theoretical models of the later evolutionary wide variety of physical problems in his lifetime. Most famously, in the popular press, Chandrasekhar showed that the mass of a white dwarf could not exceed 1.44 times that of the Sun, the Chandrasekhar limit. Stars larger than that size become a neutron star or a black hole at the end of their life. The Chandra X-ray Observatory was named in his honor. Also on this date, October 19th, 1967, the Mariner 5 spacecraft flew by Venus. The probe was originally built as a backup for the Mariner 4 Mars mission, but thanks to that mission's success, Mariner 5 was modified to become a Venus mission. Mariner Canaveral Air Force Station on June 14, 1967, and on October 19th at 1:43 p.m. Eastern Time, it had its closest approach at about 2,500 miles above the surface of Venus. Mariner 5 was the second successful Venus flyby mission. Mariner 2 in December 1962 was the first. However, this accomplishment was overshadowed by the success of the USSR just a day earlier. On October 18, 1967, Venera 4 successfully entered the atmosphere of Venus and transmitted data for 93 minutes as it descended under a parachute to the surface. It was the first spacecraft to transmit data from another planet's atmosphere. Contact with Mariner 5 was lost on December 4, 1967, but was temporarily regained on October 14, 1968. It's now in orbit around the Sun. And finally, this past week, we had several astronaut birthdays to celebrate. October 13th, 1952, Michael Clifford, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-53, 59, and 76. Also on October 13th, but 1962, Michael Good, Space Shuttle missions STS-125, which happens to be my all-time favorite Space Shuttle mission, and STS-132. October 14th, 1978, Kathleen or Kate Rubins. She was part of the Soyuz MS-01 Expedition 48 and 49, and also Soyuz MS-17, Expedition 63 and 64. She was also the first to sequence DNA in space. And she's also been selected as part of the Artemis team. She might be one of the astronauts that will go on one of the Artemis missions. astronaut birthdays, October 16th, 1956, James Newman, Space Shuttle missions STS-51, 69, 88, and 109. October 17th, 1926, Carl Gordon Heinz, Space Shuttle mission STS-51F. October 17th, 1933, Bill Anders, who was on Apollo 8. October 17th, 1956, Mae Jemison, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-47. She was also the first African-American woman in space. And that's all I've got this evening. I will turn it back over to Brenda. This is K5KTX. Thank you very much, Kelly. Want to recognize additional check-ins over on the website. We have NV5F, Virginia, K5NCD, Cody, KI5PGM, Travis, KE5JIT, Randy, W5BLT, Bill, and KG5OMR, Marcia. All right. Let me change screens again. Okay. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is next. I'm going to call on Chaz again, KF5JHA. Go ahead, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, Slide Master, slide number 17. Oh, you already have it up. Thank you very much. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in North Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Aquarius, the water bearer. Now, the constellation Aquarius resides in the part of the sky that is sometimes referred as the sea, because the constellations here are all water-related. Aquarius is the water bearer. Quoting from Dave Hutchinson's article, what is interesting about this constellation is how many cultures have related it to water. The Greeks named it Aquarius after Ganymede. Well, we just heard about Ganymede, who was a cupbearer to the gods at Mount Olympus. Cupbearer, huh? The Egyptians associated this part of the sky with the god Khrumum, who was the god of water. He could dip his cup into the Nile and cause it to overflow. In fact, the Egyptian hieroglyph for water is the same sign as used for the astrologers for Aquarius. Slide Master, slide number 18, the jokes of the week. Those of you that have been following Skynet for a while, you know that the jokes of the week follow along with the constellation of the week. So here we go. And you're welcome to boo or hiss. I'm not sure if I can hear either one, but that's okay. My friend can't afford to pay his water bill anymore, so I sent him a card saying, "Get well soon." Do you get it? Do you? Okay. Why did the fish cross the sea? To get to the other tide. Oh, these are funny. A police officer arrested a bottle of water because it was wanted in 3 different states: solid, liquid, and gas. Which weighs more, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane? Well, of course, a gallon of water weighs more. Butane is a lighter fluid. Why do sharks only swim in salt water? Because pepper water makes them sneeze. And finally, a man walked past 3 sources of water and he said, well, well, well. And this is KF5JJ and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 19. The star Zeta Aquarii consists of two type F2 supergiants of nearly equal stars in a binary pair. Although its duplicate nature has been known since about 1777, Zeta was first recognized as a true binary system by William Herschel in 1804, based upon observations he made of its starting in the year 1779. Burnham's Celestial Handbook lists Zeta as about 75 light years in distance. It also cites research by Dr. K. Strand that shows a third unseen component of the system, which appears to be orbiting the B component and is believed to be a red dwarf star. Slide master, slide number 20. M2 is a wonderful globular cluster. It's easy to object for binoculars and small telescopes, and looks like a little ball of glowing mist in a 2-inch telescope, according to Robert Burnham Jr. The late task member Rick Rausch called M2 a fine object in an almost void region of the sky. Rick wrote in the Constellation of the Month articles in the task spectrum in 1991 and 2005. Although M2 is easy to see once you found it, Stephen James Amira notes that it can be somewhat hard to find without setting circles or a go-to telescope because it lies in a sparse region of the sky with no easy guide stars. Stephen James Amira, also notes that M2 is interesting to watch over a 2-week period because it contains a prominent variable star that alters the cluster's appearance. The star varies from magnitude 12.5 to 14 over about 11 days. The star is located on the eastern edge of the cluster and is slightly north of the center. Slide master, slide number 21, please. M73 is a small group of 4 stars not far from M72. It is merely a small telescopic asterism and is not truly an open cluster or multiple star system. It was proven by research conducted in 2000 and 2001 using spectral data giving radial velocity measurements as well as proper motion data from the Tycho 2 catalog. All of this noted in detail in the Annals of Deep Sky by Jeff Knipe and Dennis Webb. M73 is a simple 4 stars that form sort of a Y-shaped group of stars. Messier believes them to be surrounded by nebulosity, but this has been proven to be an illusion, as many small groups or 2 or more stars look fuzzy in small telescopes. Regarding M73, Rick Rausch wrote, with the possible exception of M40, which is just a bland double star, probably the most disappointing Messier object. Slide master, slide number 22, please. The next object is NGC 7293, also known as the Helix Nebula. I can tell you this is a hard one to image. I need to get in a dark location to be able to do this. At 522 light years away, the Helix is widely regarded as the nearest planetary nebula to our solar system. Its angular size extends beyond a fairly large field of view compared to most deep sky objects. This is particularly notable when you consider that many planetary nebulae appear quite small and star-like even under fairly large amounts of magnification. Imagine looking at a first quarter moon. The helix would span the distance of the moon's limb to its terminator. Wow. So about a quarter of a degree. The helix is visible in binoculars and low-powered telescopes from the dark sky side. So far it is known the helix is the only planetary nebula where gaseous knobs knots have been observed with a comet-like tails, apparently blown off by radiation and stellar wind from the nucleus of the nebula's central star. These features have long been known by ground-based observations, but observations from the Hubble Space Telescope increased their number from a few hundred to over 3,500 of these little knot things. Wow. Slide master, slide number 23. Last in the objects is NGC 7009, also known as the Saturn Nebula, which is very close to M72 and M73. Despite this, and the fact that it is a fairly large and bright planetary nebula, it was overlooked by Messier and instead was discovered by William Herschel in 1782. Lord Rosse named it the Saturn Nebula in 1850 from the ring-like extensions on either side of that resembles the rings of the planet Saturn when seen nearly edge-on. Well, Saturn's almost edge-on right now. Now, unlike the helix, which requires the dark skies to see it well, the Saturn Nebula is fairly bright and can be observed from even inside the city skies, which means it's earned its place in the Urban Club Observing Club from the Astronomical League. It shows up well in an 8 to 10-inch telescope or larger. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that the ring extensions may be glimpsed in a 10-inch telescope under dark skies. The Astronomical League Observing Guide, the Herschel Objects, describes the Saturn Nebula as having a blue tint showing some elongation, large and opaque, and in an 8-inch Starliner Newtonian reflector at 96 power. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 24, please. Those of you that are watching the Georgia-Texas game, the score is still 30, Georgia, and 15 for Texas. Oh, well. Only a few minutes left in the game. Oh, slide number 24. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Aquarius, the water bear. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. And Slide Master, slide number 25, that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aquarius, the water bearer. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Cepheus, the king. The king? There's a king in the sky? Yep, there is. And this is KF5JHA, Chaz, saying good night, 73, back to our net control. Brenda, it's yours for the rest of the evening, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Jazz. Now I'm going to turn it back. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Brent. You broke up a little bit, but yes, the next section is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. This information comes from heavensabove.com, where you can find the orbit, where to look for during flyovers. Let's see here. Hold on just a sec. Okay, somehow or another this didn't end up in the script. I'm not quite sure why, because I know I copied and pasted it in. But let me go ahead and put this in. We have OneWeb 20 launching on October 19th to 20th. This is from Vandenberg. SLC-4E, it'll carry the final batch of OneWeb's Gen 1 satellites to low Earth orbit. The Falcon 9 rocket will, nearly 8 minutes after liftoff from the Space Launch Complex 4E, the Falcon 9 first stage booster will return for a touchdown down at Landing Zone 4. On October 21st is the Starlink 6-61 launch from Cape Canaveral SLC-40. This will be another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites to low Earth orbit. A little more than 8 minutes after launch, the first stage booster will touch down on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have an Electron launch. Changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes is the name of the mission. This is from Launch Complex 1 at Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. This will be a confidential commercial customer. The mission is described as Rocket Lab's fastest turnaround to date, from signed contract to launch date in less than 2 months. The payload, the orbit, and the timing and deployment were not disclosed at the time of the launch was announced. Then we have the New Glenn NG-1 launch. This will be the company's Blue Ring spacecraft, which is capable of hosting and deploying multiple payloads. Blue Origin will attempt to land the first stage booster on its sea-based landing platform, Jacqueline. And sometime in the spring, we have launching from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station will be the New Glenn rocket. We'll launch a pair of identical spacecraft of NASA's Escape and Plasma Acceleration Dynamics Explorers, or ESCAPADE mission. The two satellites, named Blue and Gold, will make a roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will then perform about an 11-month science mission while orbiting the red planet for years and carry science experiments from the University of California in Berkeley. This launch of the New Glenn rocket will also feature a landing attempt on its landing barge in the Atlantic Ocean. And the delayed Vulcan Centaur Dream Chaser 1 launch from SLC-41 from Cape Canaveral to be determined next year. It will launch its second demonstration flight with the Sierra Space Dream Chaser cargo vehicle for the International Space Station. Dream Chaser is a lifting body, resupply spacecraft to the launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. This will be Dream Chaser's first flight into space. The rocket will fly in the VC-4L configuration with 4 GEM 63XL solid rocket boosters, a long-length payload fairing, and 2 RL-10 engines on the Centaur upper stage. Now, normally I would continue on and tell you about visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, but I got bad news for you. The two that we normally track, that would be the International Space Station and Tiangong Space Station, both do have very poor passes over the next couple of weeks. So I don't really have anything to report, and I kind of gave up on the others because, well, they're not all that interesting. So I'm going to send it back to you, Brenda. We may end a little early. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I think we're just almost done. We had, well, first let's see if there's any more last-minute check-ins. Please come now. Okay, we had 26 hands participating on the air. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to netsetw5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda. The repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And join us for the next net, our Afterglow movie net, at starting at 10:30. It gives us 5 minutes. and hope to see you all there. 73.
Normal state. Glow movie net.
right, it is that time. It is 10:30, and it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net. This is KE5ICX. I'll be your net control for this week. Next week, anyone could be net control. I don't mind, but we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're listening in, and we'd love it if you'd like to be net control. So at any rate, this week's assigned movie is called Everything Beautiful is Far Away. This is a 2017 independent science fiction fantasy film written and directed by a guy named Pete Oves. And it has some people that were co-directed. It was premiered in competition in the 2017 Los Angeles Film Festival, where it received the U.S. Fiction Cinematography Award. I guess that's good. So from Wikipedia, here's the very short synopsis of the plot, and it wasn't much of one. It's very short. Traveling across a barren landscape, Leonard digs through piles of rubbish in an attempt to build a body for his companion, Susan, the unresponsive robot head who hangs from the back of his pack. The pair comes across Rolla, a spirited young woman who lacks survival skills but makes up for it for the deficiency with sheer determination. This unlikely trio navigates the harsh desert in search of a mythical water basin that could replenish their depleted resources and renew their will to carry on. The title is a reference to the Granddaddy song Everything Beautiful is Far Away, whose lyrics mirror the plot and themes of the film. Well, that explains a lot right there, I think. Reception for the film was from the 2017 Los Angeles Film Festival and received the Cinematography Award I just mentioned. It later screened at the Tacoma Film Festival, receiving the Best Director and Best Cinematography Awards, and an Eastern Oregon Film Festival, receiving the award for Best Feature. Alex Billingham of FirstShowing.net reviewed the film positively, saying there's a sublime simplicity to Everything Beautiful is Far Away that also helps make it feel even more endearing as a cinematic feature. The film was acquired for distribution by The Orchard, which is reflected in the credits at the very beginning. That's it. That's all they say about this on Wiki, so there's not much to say. The movie's 91 minutes long, which is a long 91 minutes, in my view. Okay, this is how the game is played. Everybody usually knows this, but I tell, just in case there's somebody new listening, what we'll do is we will take check-ins. After that, we will go down the list and ask what you thought about the plot, then followed by the acting and the characterization, and then the third round is anything you want. You can talk about music, technical aspects of the film, something you missed on the first two rounds, or just any general topic or conversation that may be related to the film. Lastly, when you check in this evening, you do not have to have actually seen the movie. We'll take your check-in because you're listening, and then we may ask you, would you want to see this film, or does this remind you of one that you've already seen, and comment on it. We've had actually good comments in that regard. It's been quite interesting at times what we get from folks that have not seen the film. This is KE5ICX. I'm going to take check-ins now. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film. Check-ins now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving, yes, I saw this movie.
Kilo 5, Julia, Delta Whiskey, John and Coffell. I did not see the movie. Tom, good to hear you. You fade in and out every now and then. Don't call on me. I'll be in and out of here while I'm working in the garage. So I'll just listen in. K5JW.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zoo, Whiskey, Jane or whatever. Yes, I saw the film.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bill, Garland, and yes, I saw the movie.
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okie dokie, let's go ahead and get those folks checked in. I know there'll be some other stragglers. I got N5BB, Bill and Irving. Yes, he saw the film. K5JDW, Mr. John and Capel. He did not see the film. He does not want to be called upon. That's okay, John. You know how it's played. But thank you for checking in so we know you're out there. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Yes, he saw the film. W5BLT, Bill and Garland. Yes, he saw the film. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, she also saw the film. Anyone else would like to check in? I'm checking Echolink there as well. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sarah's Kilo, Sean Forward. Yes, I did see the film.
All right, we also picked up Sean, KB9SOK. He also saw the film. I think Brenda's probably out there, but she was net control, so she's probably taking a quick respite and will return. We'll look for her on towards the bottom of the list. An extra chance. Anyone else like to check in? Please come now.
WB50ZL. I tried to check in a while ago, but it probably doubled with somebody. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okay, let's get Brenda in there. WB50ZL, last but certainly not least. Okay, we're going to move to the top of the list. I'm going to start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the plot for our fine film from 2017?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, this is an odd movie, and I'm not sure if it was meant to be accepted literally or figuratively. Okay, so we have characters in this immense desert, and one of them is just walking somewhere, no particular place. The other one's walking, looking for the mythical Crystal Lake, I think it's what it was called, which was rumored to exist somewhere. They seem to come from a city. They didn't describe the cities hardly at all, although they did say a little bit at one point about their childhood, like they were cities kind of like we think of cities. But there wasn't any real clear reason that they were out there in the desert. There's one additional character we see that they pass that is also walking, and he is an unhappy person. He was very unhappy in the city where he was, and he just wanted to be somewhere else. So it's difficult for me, even if this is just full crazy science fiction, it's really difficult to me to accept this literally on the face of it. Why? Well, who would just take a backpack, and the woman had very little in the way of a backpack, very little with her. Who would take very little with them and just go out walking days and days and days on a desert, hoping to scrounge plants and water in it? And the water is from a rather weird way of, which I have no idea if that really works, but getting water that's evidently under the desert surface only a few feet down. Who would do this? And they could have given us some backstory, some more reason other than, oh, I don't like my life or something. But we had no idea. Did they get along with other people where they were? Were they married? Did they have kids? Were they in big families? Did they have a job? You don't hear any of this. These people are kind of plucked out of time. It's like they just appear in this desert, just out of nowhere, kind of. That's why I think it's supposed to be not interpreted literally, but maybe it's their personal journey, going out and wandering and looking. It's more of the journey itself is what's important, not story. Happened before they started. So that's why I'm thinking that we may need to, at least I may need to interpret this as a figurative movie rather than a literal movie. And there's one other character, of course, Susan the robot, who gets powered up occasionally, and there's a little discussion of how does she interpret what's happening when she's off. So she knows she's off for a certain amount of time, but has no idea what happened. And she has no body. But she would like to be walking, being able to walk in the sand. So again, she's yearning for that quality. One thing that bothered me about this, and I guess I'll put it in the plot area, because there's not really special effects or anything, is that they're not, the woman in particular, she wasn't wearing a hat. She had shorts on, although I think there were some kind of leggings on her lower legs. But there was nothing protecting her from sunburn. Her face, she had very light complexion. Her face did not appear sunburned or anything, or heavily tanned. And the guy also didn't appear to be sunburned or heavily tanned. So I did not understand that. Again, this is like it's a figurative walk in the desert rather than a real walk in the desert. Because they would be fried out there, no matter what the temperature was, just the intense sun, because there were like no clouds most of the days they were out there, except near the end. So again, confusion about the plot, unless we interpret it figuratively and not or the general quality of the movie. The characters were, I guess, a little bit of interest, although we don't know much about them. And but this is not a character movie. It's not about character. It's really about, I think, the desert and the lake when they get to it. It's really the experience in the cinematography we're supposed to notice. It's not what you would say the plot, a regular plot that involves motivations and things like that. That's my take on it. Did I like it? It was okay. I don't think I'd watch it again because I'd be bored. But I was glad I watched it this time because I thought it was interesting. N5BB. Thank you. Oh, and one more topic. Where did he get the fishing pole when he got to the lake? He had a fishing pole. Where did that come from? That's all. N5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I'm just going to say one thing. I did take some notes, and I'll mention it on my turn. But it does say science fantasy is, and the difference between science fiction and science fantasy is, or science fiction fantasy, which I think is more like science fantasy. Not a lot of in fantasy. There's not a lot of reason to actually have anything that is grounded in any sort of logic. It's not required. Look at any Star Wars film and you'll see that. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on the plot for tonight's movie, Everything Beautiful is Far Away from 2017. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
All right, this is KE5BZW. Yeah, I kind of got the same take that Bill had, that this is kind of allegorical, but not like, I don't want to say it is an allegory. It's just, I don't see it being taken literally either. I mean, if you consider this desert is not like any desert that I know of on Earth, and the lake is not like any lake on Earth. So there's a lot of liberties taken with these things. One thing of note is people just find them random stashes, not really stash. I shouldn't call it a stash, but. Still transmitting it, and I was hearing echoing. Okay. That's kind of odd. Anyway, yeah, these random, just troves, kind of like you would find in a video game. Just a little bit of supply, so you can continue your charging and whatever the video game is doing. It really felt more like that because there's no real rhyme or logic to it other than, well, okay, you kind of need this to continue going. So, we're just going to provide it for you. I didn't hate the movie. Do I like it? Yeah, it's okay. The message is all right, but could have been handled better, probably. I didn't feel like this was a story that needed a whole hour, 30 or whatever minutes to tell as it was. They could have added a little bit more substance to make it worth it. Even though, granted, this is a film it's about the journey, and yeah, the cinematography is good and everything. It's just, I don't know. The desert scenes were not all. They were interesting, but did I want to see it for that length of time? I'm not sure I did. I did like the introduction of the weird turnips and whatnot. Especially the cubic. It's clearly not this is not a desert on Earth or anything, because I don't know of anything that has a cubic tuber thing you can eat. But, you know, it kind of just added more interest to what was going. Yeah, to put it short, is life's about the journey and blah 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 kind of thing that took a little bit too long, in my opinion, to film and show. I'll leave it at that. KQ5BGW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Don't feel bad. I have struggled with this film too. I don't know what to think of it really, but we're going to ask Bill W5BLT what he thought of it. Bill, figure this thing out for us, please, from KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, I'm happy to figure it out once I figure it out. Well, you know, actually, I read a couple reviews, and you know, in watching it, I think it was, I had the feeling that some kind of disaster had happened on this planet, but then I think people thought that it was on another, you know, not Earth, but another planet. But it was also about Susan the robot and what happens when we give an AI machine feelings and ramifications in that. And so I could see that point from the reviewer standpoint. I like the movie. And is it my favorite that we've seen? No. Is it the absolute worst we've seen? No. I think I kind of liked it because it was about the journey, and I was curious, okay, what happens when they get to Crystal Lake? But I was also intrigued by the robot and the, you know, are they going to give her a body or not? And then, of course, you find out that Leonard has been, you know, lying that he wasn't really going to give the robot a body. We've kind of seen similar plots before, you know, some type of desert wandering around, water being scarce. Is it realistic? You know, obviously I didn't see how people were dressed, so that is a red flag that they're not dressed appropriately for the desert. Sunscreen, they're not using sunscreen, but maybe this planet's sun doesn't have those rays that damage you like we do. I don't know. But yeah, it was a weird movie, but it was intriguing, and I think it was different. And so in that sense, I kind of liked it. So anyway, it wasn't the worst we've seen, I don't think. And so it kept my interest. So, you know, coming off of some of the films that we've seen, it was refreshing. So, that's my view anyway. W5BLT, back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. I guess that helps a little. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what did you think about our plot for our film? Everything Beautiful is Far Away from 2017 from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. I must say that the concert I went to last night was better than this movie. And then I was busy all day, but I came back at about 6:45, and at about 7 I sat down and watched this movie. Now I'm very tired, so I'm standing up in front of the radio, and that's going to keep me from falling asleep. Well, the question others have posed is definitely one foremost in my mind was this, as far as setting, which I guess can definitely drive or shape the plot of a movie. Was this a sort of post-apocalyptic dystopian version of Earth that had been kind of ruined in some way, or was it another planet because of the weird vegetables and the very weird sort of desert terrain, and the fact that, you know, there was apparently not a lot of water known to these people. I also wondered about the desert. This gives me a thought that it may be intended to be another planet besides Earth, because it appears that this desert was not, that it was a desert in the sense that it was barren and dry, but it didn't seem that it was portrayed as being hot. There was never any sense that I got that these people were hot or in danger of overheating, but mostly in danger of being dehydrated. There was a lot of wind. There did not seem to be concern with sun. Maybe they had some kind of magic sunscreen they used. This little gal in the story was almost as fair as me, and she didn't seem to have, as was stated before, didn't seem to have any concern about wearing protective clothing. Bill, she was wearing, Bill Byram, FIBB, she was wearing shorts for most of it. Every now and then she'd be wearing pants, but she was wearing shorts. She looked as smooth as porcelain, not any sense at all that she was getting a suntan or a sunburn. And the same with the guy, Lerner, strange name, Lerner. And the main problem I had with the story was that it didn't really have any sense of rising conflict at all. There were little things that looked like they were perspective conflicts, like this robot that had been reduced to a brain without power that he was supposedly trying to fix, and I think that was kind of what gave him a sense of purpose, because he didn't have anywhere he was particularly trying to go. He was just trying to stay away from civilization because, you know, apparently maybe it was like it's starting to be now. Things are starting to be very, you know, run by technology, kind of controlled by them, but at the same time he took his technology with him. He brought his, you know, he brought kind of an artificial companion with him, and she had gradually been reduced by the elements. You know, not much of anything. I thought she was kind of bossy, but I'll probably get into that later, but I kind of have a sense that he was avoiding actually fixing her and giving her any kind of autonomy, because, you know, maybe she was kind of running his life a little bit, but he liked the idea. You know, we sort of have those things in our life where we say we have a goal, but the fact that the goal never gets achieved means that it's more of a like, I don't know, sort of a so anyway, there was a promise of a decent plot here, but there was just not a lot of conflict.
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m.
Sleep, and, you know, and he doesn't see, you know, nobody seemed to really have any, like, you know, she was sort of like, oh yeah, whatever, man, but I want to be walking somewhere. I'm going to find this lake. And so that was the goal. That was like the literal goal of the story once she got involved. And then his goal of putting the robot back together, you know, kind of fell by the wayside because he got on board with her and her goal. But, you know, then they found the battery and the power supply thing, rather, that cold fusion device or whatever it was. And that kind of, and it seemed funny because the robot seemed sort of jealous of her right away, and she seemed completely unfazed by that, and she seemed very like, let's get this robot put back together, and he seemed sort of unconsciously reluctant. You know, so there was some subtle things going on, but there wasn't like the kind of conflict that would really make it a great plot. But at the same time, the weird subtle things made me hang on and stay interested, because I thought maybe it would turn into something like it would all jigsaw together at the end, and I would go, oh, that's really clever, or really brilliant, or really meaningful. But it didn't seem to. They got to the lake, which is, you know, kind of like an ocean. So I'm guessing it was like a very large lake, like Lake Michigan or something. And you know, but there was no reversals, there was no twists, there was just, it had this very leisurely feel to it, that it sort of wandered and ended up where it wanted to, you know, they ended up where they wanted to be. And then there was the final, you know, well, we're gonna, you know, the robot kind of changed, she was sort of changed, and actually her goals became more human. And so I think there was something here, but it was super subtle, and the allegory didn't like kind of line up with the sort of literal aspect of it enough for it to really have any kind of drive to it, I think. But I did stay interested, and it was easy to follow, obviously, very, very obvious goal, you know, and then kind of the fight between, you know, the human urge to keep going, you know, the hope springing eternal versus the logic and, you know, almost defeatist nature of the AI, kind of going, oh, you guys can't make it because of all these, you know, algorithmic things. So yeah, I mean, it was almost something, and it wasn't quite something in B5F.
Sorry about that. A mistake on my part, inside BB.
Well, that's okay, Bill. I was going to say, I bet you that's Bill that's doing that. Oh, I didn't know if it was you or not. Okay, Sean, KB9SOK, what do you think? What's your take on tonight's plot?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everybody so far. This was a really simple plot. I do agree, Virginia, that this seemed like it could have been something, but then it wasn't. Through the whole film, I kept waiting for something to happen. But yeah, this thing is so full of plot holes. You know, obviously, as everybody's pointing out, the crazy fruit in the ground. You can take a pipe, just shove it 6 inches in the ground, and magically get water. Somebody should probably tell people in Nevada about that. So there was just, you know, and then the crazy part where the guy gets hit in the head with a can, just a normal tin can. Why that would have exploded, I have no idea. I guess they needed a reason for him to be knocked out, for the girl to find him. And yeah, in the end, where'd the fishing pole come from? thing looked like an ocean, but yet it was supposedly a lake and fresh water, even though it didn't look like fresh water. I mean, there were just so many plot holes. We got this robot head that apparently can be reprogrammed with a screwdriver. That's pretty good. No inputs, no keyboard. It was just, the whole thing was just kind of ridiculous. I realize it's fantasy, but unfortunately, we spent so much time just watching them walk through the desert. It was getting pretty old, between walking through the desert, watching them clearing out the sand out of the robot head, which wouldn't have sand in it if he quit just laying it in the sand. So it's like they had an idea for a plot, but just needed a lot of filler and didn't really go back and really flush this thing out. I think this movie was supposed to be, maybe a story about, becoming, using AI as a partner. Because obviously he built the robot to be a companion with him, to help him out, and then him obviously eventually developing, some basic feelings for this robot, which, we're now seeing with, AI. People have already started down that path, which is weird. People have already, had obsessions with those little electronic baby things, where it emulates a baby, people become attached to it. So I guess we've already seen some of this. In some ways, it almost feels like this is really what the story was about. Because the real girl, her being real and the robot not. And basically she's trying to get him to see her and quit seeing the robot. And that seemed like that's where this film was going. And I think there was a lot there they could have done with that plot line. We have seen that before in Star Trek and various other sci-fi films, along those lines of people falling in love with an AI or a robot. And so this is not exactly new, but I think they could have had some opportunity for some real deep conversation, because really, they were just walking around the desert most of the film. And there's plenty of time for some real dialogue. And they just really just had that one little word. And then the rest of it was pretty just miscellaneous things about him telling her what she could and couldn't eat, and just very simple things. So you can have a simple backdrop. I didn't mind that there really wasn't, more scenery to see. We've watched other films where, like we had the one where the guy said he was God, and the whole film took place inside of a building, or a cabin or whatever it was. And that was an interesting movie because there's great dialogue. This one was just lacking. And I really think that was, it could have been. I think if they'd really dove deeper in the difference between relationships, artificial and real people, they could have made a lot more out of this film than what it was. So in that respect, I was very disappointed. It got kind of boring, to be honest, through a lot of it, just because it was, not a whole lot going on most of the time till we kind of really got to the end. So unfortunately, I think that was, it just made a drag. So that got old pretty quick. So yeah, this definitely should have been an hour-and-a-half movie, or they needed to truly flesh it out and have some real dialogue between the people. Now, the only thing I will say that was positive about this movie was it had a happy ending. Finally, first happy ending we've had in a very, very long time. So that was nice. I was pleasantly surprised that everybody didn't die. So I was glad. That was a nice change. And it was nice that it wasn't a violent movie. Even when it came across a stranger in the desert, I expected that to turn into some kind of serious situation, and it wasn't. There was a few positives, but unfortunately, for me, there was more negative than positive in this one. Once again, it's just one of those that could have been, but wasn't. Anyway, that's it for this round. Back to net. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. I'm beginning to get a pattern here on the film, which I'll mention here at the end. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what do you have to say about the plot?
This is WB50ZL. I actually rather enjoyed the movie. Surprisingly, despite all of its shortcomings. Yeah, they don't explain things, but really they don't have to. And how many movies have we seen like that? They just, they can make something up, but what's the point? That wasn't what the movie was about. These people talk too much, but I think that was what the movie was for, to show these two characters who are different. The guy is uptight. He is sort of a dictator, authoritarian, but he's very practical. And the girl is flighty, free-spirited, but she's kind of fun. And these two different kinds of people find each other through circumstance. They're thrown together. And I read one synopsis that talked about, this is about the difference between spontaneity and rigidity. And it made both of them in their own way kind of unlikable and likable at the same time. I was very disturbed by the girl's lack of sunscreen and clothing. I'm fair, like her. I burn easily, and she should have been like a lobster by the end of this movie. I don't know why they couldn't have clothed them properly. And she sits out across the desert with no tent. And most deserts I've been in, it's cold at night. You're going to need some cover and something to protect you from the wind and animals. He had his little tent, but he didn't share it with her. She should have taken a tent with her. And many strange things. Now, the synopsis says this was a desert planet, so they didn't say it was Earth. It actually was filmed on Earth, though. The Algodones Dunes in California, as far as South California, almost down to where Baja breaks off from California. And I looked to see where the Crystal Lake scenes were shot. I've not been able to find anything yet. That looks a lot more like an ocean to me than a lake, which means it's not drinkable, and it could be poisonous to drink. Stand by, I'm almost timed out. Sorry about that. If that's an ocean, it's not fresh water. And these people were dehydrated. They had little thermoses. A person needs normally would need a gallon of water a day in the desert, and they were not getting it. And I'm just not buying that little faucet thing that they had. That was sort of magical. But on that planet, maybe that worked. And this hideous turnips, can't imagine anybody wanting that. I would be very hungry if that's all there was to eat. To make these people want to just traipse around in the desert and undergo all those hardships. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to the net. This is WV50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX at the bottom of the list. Does anyone else want to check in? Tonight's movie is Everything Beautiful is Far Away from 2017. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, did you see the film?
This is Whiskey 5 Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Springtown.
I saw the movie.
W5EBB. David, welcome back. You're from Springtown. You did see the film. Now, I know you're kind of a student of film, so you may have something that to bring us on this that we haven't covered yet. I'm almost positive of it. So what did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks for running the net. I liked this movie because it was different. And I think, the main draw, the main appeal of it is the cinematography. And yeah, like Brenda, I had to look this up, the Algodones Dunes in California. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the ocean. I've never seen a lake with waves like that. And about the sunscreen, I agree. I can relate. My first trip to Galveston had slathered with sunscreen except the top of my feet, and I got the nickname Lobster Feet after that. but yeah, it's all about the quest, and the AI was just kind of a third party. But the two characters had a pretty good interplay. They were different enough to make it somewhat interesting. But the water table must be very, very shallow there in the desert, or maybe we can elaborate and give it a pass. And maybe it was some kind of steampunk technology that extended that water rod, like a lightsaber down a couple hundred feet. I don't know. But I liked the quest part of the story. It was reasonably okay. The end of the story, although I thought was inconsistent with the rest of the plot, this was about living off the grid, but at the end they kind of put a bow on it and say, it tells the masses to come join them, and it was kind of an AI-generated story ending, and I didn't like that. I think it would have been better if they would have got onto the beach and they both fall onto their knees and they see a sinking Statue of Liberty in the ocean.
Okay, thank you, David. Were you done? I think you got cut off.
Yes, I was done. W5EBB.
All right, thanks. I'm on All-Star Link, and I was also looking on Echolink, and both these nodes did something weird, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. So I wasn't sure if you had been cut off or what, or whether it was on my end here. I have a suspicion it was on my end, since both units kind of did something wonky. Maybe it's the internet connection. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what more to add. It was a very simple plot, obviously. I did fall asleep through it. I was very tired, so there wasn't a lot of action to keep me going. In fact, what woke me up was whatever we were watching, Pluto or something, it automatically switched to another movie when it was done, and different music and all that, and it woke me up. So all I remember is seeing them heading for the water, and then that was it. So probably not the best choice for describing something this evening. But with that being said, a couple of things that did come out. One was, first off, the film is labeled as science fantasy, and while a lot of people who make films or people who review films don't spend a lot of time differentiating between science fiction and science fantasy. There's a huge difference between the two as far as how its fandom views them. And of course, science fantasy doesn't require any rules. There's no reason that anything has to work the way it's supposed to. You can have anti-gravity planet if you want, or you could put things in little tiny containers and they're bigger on the inside and larger on the outside, and smaller on the outside, stuff like that. So there's that. The story itself is, I guess, very simple. There's not a lot to pull out of it. I was hoping others would, because when I fall asleep, I miss things, and I thought, what did I see in this film? And to me, not much. It was similar to Waiting for Godot, although there's a hell of a lot more dialogue and a lot more meaning to it. But essentially, it is, and I think you got it right, David. I think you said it was you saying it was the quest. It's the journey. It's that which is the most important part. The details that surround it aren't as important. And I guess that's okay, but there's no great moments even there. So it's just this is how it would show up, I guess. I don't know. I fell asleep during the most informative parts, I guess. Maybe. I think that the fact that we're arguing some of the technical aspects more than anything about the film means there really wasn't a lot of plot. Is it worth watching again? I don't know. If there's nothing more to it, I've seen it all, I'll fall asleep again. That would be my defense mechanism for being, I guess in a word, bored. I didn't feel as motivated. It was okay, and I guess in some ways there's a positive aspect to it, that everybody didn't die. There wasn't horrific death or blood or destruction or explosions or any of that, and that's fine. But I also kind of would like to have something that's meaningful too, like Waiting for Godot. So I don't know. I guess it's somewhere in between, middle of the road. Okay, with that, I'm going to go to the top of the list again. It's 11:24. We should end on time. We'll go ahead and talk about characterization. There aren't a lot of characters, so I'm not sure how quickly this will go. Maybe quickly, maybe not. I don't know. Let's go back to Bill N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the characters from our film?
In the next room, and I made it back. This is N5BB. Okay, well, we have the main protagonist guy and gal, and then there's only one other human we see, and that is the guy that kind of wanders through, the visitor. So that visitor guy, he's unhappy with the world. So we have our two main protagonists, and then this other guy is on another wavelength from them, which is kind of interesting. He's doesn't want to interact with them. He's doing his own search for something in the desert, but he's just borderline belligerent with them, you know? He just does not want to interact with him at all. They ask, do you want to walk with us? And he doesn't even answer. He just walks away. So, characterization is he is somebody that's going through life on a different plane. Okay? Different plane of existence from the other one. The main protagonist guy and gal, they are different. The guy is, well, they're both secretive. They don't release much about their inner lives. You don't learn anything, like I said, about their history, really. Except one little point they talk about childhood, but it's very minimal. Or their mothers or something, but it's just super minimal. And they seem to not be interacting with each other very well. In other words, they don't really smile at each other very much. They don't seem to be very attracted to each other, or other than right at this initially, they seem to be repelled a little bit from each other, but the rest of the movie, they weren't really repelled from each other, and they kind of went along with each other, but they weren't really attracted, except maybe near the end, but it was hard to interpret that at the very end. Were they likable? Well, kind of. They weren't, I didn't dislike either one of them as a character. But it's inscrutable. It's kind of hard to figure out, you know, their motivations for any of this. That's one problem I had is, yes, they're walking out there. Yes, they want to walk. Why? Which I think is at the core of this film. People doing things for no apparent reason. And that may be what we're supposed to take away from it, you know? That might be it. Anyway, that's about all I can offer for characterizations, I guess. Again, fishing pole at the very end. He couldn't have been carrying that fishing pole. Neither one of them seemed to be carrying the fishing rod reel around. But at the end, he's out there. He's casting for fish with what I think was a rod and reel. Where in the world did he get that? It wasn't just laying there. I didn't see it laying there beside the side of the water. I'm bothered by that. I guess that's all. Inside BB. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. That's the second time you've mentioned that fishing rod. That fishing rod is bothering you. It's science fantasy. He needed the fishing rod. It materialized out of nowhere. Very important. It's just robot bodies that are hard to produce. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what do you got to say about the characterization, the acting from KE5ICX?
Five more Mizzou whiskey. And, well, one character Bill didn't really mention, even though it turned out to be the character turned out to be a non-character, but they kept on focusing on, I'll go ahead and say it, the robot. I hate to steal Virginia's thunder, but I'm going to tie into 2001 before she has a say. I was kind of expecting some sort of, I don't know, 2001 moment, not in a controlling way or whatever, but they coded her, really, to be kind of jealous, seemingly jealous, and I just kind of wonder what gets you always, there are so many counter shots where they're focusing on the eyes of the robot, which, I mean, that's the only thing that can react. But I kept on expecting something more from I'm going to call it her because it has a kind of a female voice, but in the end, it was kind of disappointing because they kind of reneged and didn't. They just kind of made her, in the end, automaton instead of. They made her. Actually, let me put it this way. It was a double. Well, I don't know how to put this, but at the end, the robot was given free will. Let's just put it that way. It basically magically. It was very magical because, as I mentioned, it's like, well, how did this programming even occur to it? So yeah, you could say the robot did change a lot. Gosh, I'm bouncing all over the place. But yeah, it seemed to be jealous, but it turns out that a lot of the feelings or whatever were just programmed in. So it's like, well, this is really. They programmed it like it was already acting on its own, but it wasn't acting on its own. I don't know. The whole way that was set up was just annoying to me because, in fact, I don't know how I'm trying to. How much of the time were we just framed in on the Hal's eye? That's the tie-in is what I'm trying to get. But we were, instead of Hal's eye or whatever, the big black circle with the little red dot, we had these two eyes which seemed to react, but weren't really reacting. I mean, it's fine. I feel like I'm more going on around, but I feel like it could have gone a little bit better prepared for this section because I think the robot's the only interesting character. I mean, the two humans, they seem a little, let's say, neurodivergent. I'll say. Not in a bad way or anything. Not that I'm trying to use it in a bad way. I'm just saying that they're probably not typical of. They may not be even more typical of just general nerd types or whatever. But they didn't really go anywhere with that. Of course, Bill covered the third human that was never really interested in them. Of course, the Rolla, I believe her name was originally kind of hostile too, but she came around for whatever reason. I don't know, did they explain that too well? Very well. And sorry, I feel like I could have presented my case better here, but yeah, mainly, to sum up, they could have done a lot with the robot character, and they didn't do really a lot, as much as they could have, and it kind of bugs me. KC5BTW.
Okay, next up is Bill, W5BLT, characterization, acting. You're on.
All right, well, I obviously on characters, there's not a whole lot of characters. We had 4 of them. We had the stranger, and that was kind of weird. I'm not really sure what he really added, except I don't know what he added. They learned something from him, and now I can't remember what it was. I had something about that, but now I don't remember. Anyway, the Susan obviously to me was kind of your main character. She was narrating the story, telling you about the desert. She was giving them directions to get to Crystal Lake and telling them, where it was at. I had the feeling that she was picked up and found by I just forgot his name. Sorry. Our main character who was going to give her a body, and I think that he found that she had been around before, and he picked her up in the desert. That was my thought on it. Interestingly enough, the reason probably I liked her as a character was with the GPS directions. And I remember my first GPS as a blind person and getting directions and the clock directions, so many feet to the left and right, and so that was kind of appealing to me. The girl, I had the feeling that she liked him, and so I missed the nonverbal communication, and so maybe I was just kind of going by the audio clues and her voice, and so maybe they didn't act as well, and maybe because we've seen this plot and there's only the guy and the girl, so I figured at some point she's going to like this guy and let him know, and she did that. And I thought it was very interesting because she tells him how she feels and makes a quip. You didn't have to pay me or don't have to pay me to say that. And then at the end, the robot says the same thing to him. And so I thought that was an interesting tie-in. So I like the characters. The one other funny story that I'll tell you is I was looking for synthesized voices for my Android phone, and now they have this on the iPhone, but there is a voice named Susan. And at the time, robotic voices were very, very bad. And so tapped on this voice and played, and my face lit up. My wife said, "I forbid you to have that on your phone." But anyway, there is a voice named Susan. It doesn't quite sound like this voice, but they're kind of a little bit similar. So I thought that was interesting in how they had that voice for the robot. W5BLT, back to you, Net Control. Thanks, Tom.
Node 48902. Timeout.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is NV5F, Virginia. You're up.
Okay, thank you. Well, I thought it was interesting that Susan the robot was the framing character. Her narration began and ended the movie. I think it was pretty clear. What I gathered from her narration at the opening was that when Bernard left the city, he brought her with him. So I would almost see her as like his, almost like a security blanket, like a tie to the past, not completely letting go, bringing that with him, but then finding that the harsh environment, she wasn't very suitable for that, based on her own narration, that she became, less and less of a body and more of just this sort of, disembodied personality. And then we find that as we join him, that she's not even functioning because she doesn't have power, and he's just carrying her around. It's almost like, it made me think of Wilson from Castaway, like she was this totem almost that kind of kept him going and made him feel like he wasn't alone, even though he essentially was, especially when she didn't have any power. And then when he did power her back up, as I noted before, she was actually kind of domineering, and kind of micromanaged him. And I think that was his unconscious reason for not really trying that hard to get her powered on continuously or to recreate her physicality, because, and then right in the midst of him just kind of being in his day in and day out, he meets Rolla, and she represents, like others have said, she's kind of ephemeral, free spirit. She's even kind of angelic looking. She's got this pretty curly blonde hair and this very, very fair porcelain complexion, and she's kind of quirky. And it's so funny because I used to be a humongous fan of the movie Edward Scissorhands, and when I watch her acting in this, her facial expressions and the way she kind of holds her mouth and the way her eyes are reminds me a lot of Johnny Depp's nonverbal performance in Edward Scissorhands, and she did have a lot of nonverbal facial expressions, and very, very interesting to me that's the parallel that I drew in her acting style of her nonverbal part of her acting. She was very, very pretty, I liked her as an actress. I liked both of the characters, and that's why I wish they'd had more to do, or a more specific or directed, or obvious set of goals or dynamics with one another. There was obviously potential for the robot to kind of make it into sort of a love triangle almost thing, where she was domineering over the guy, and then there was a little moment there where she got powered up, and she realized there was a third person there. There was another party who was also of a female gendered person who was vying for Bernert's or Lernert's, or whatever is that guy's name. Lerner? No, it's not Leonard, and it's not Bernert. I think it's Lerner. Anyway, she was immediately vying for his attention and a meanie, I thought she was a domineering meanie when he powered her up, and I thought that was going to go somewhere, kind of maybe with a more just kind of overbearing feminine presence, maybe version of didn't go anywhere. And I think Rolla's character is interesting in that she let that just roll right off of her, and she was so interested in his at least purported goal to get the robot functioning, that she seemed more enthusiastic about doing that than he was. So there were some interesting things here, some cool dynamics that could have been, something, and characters I liked. I kind of liked the oppositeness of them. He was very regimented, and he was just kind of, had these conscious, like purported goals, but then his actions were not really lining up necessarily. And he was just kind of surviving. And then she came along, and she didn't want to just survive. She wanted to get somewhere great and thrive. And there was this moment where she was willing to make the sacrifice of trying this new food that they found, in order to further the goals and buck the whole logic of the algorithms of the robot, saying there was no way they could make it. The human spirit being indomitable, and her moment of eating the new fruit, and waiting the 30 seconds, and it was okay. And that along with them finding the lake at the end, I guess, were the climactic moments. But like I said, it just didn't have any. There was just no arc or drive behind the story. If you're going to have okay, here's my 2001. I'm going to take my thunder back. If you're going to have a razor-thin plot and very almost leisurely, repetitive action, in the name of beautiful cinematography, by the way, you better be as smart as Stanley Kubrick, because he's the kind of person that could carry that off. He in 2001, more than any of his other movies, he managed that with, it looked like very little. And critics at first said it was very little, and some people even said it was nothing, and it was just this big, this big show and of his skill as a filmmaker, and there was nothing there. And then as the years went by, people started scratching their heads and going, there's really something here. I don't think that's going to happen with this movie, but it was kind of like an art house, grown-up version of Solar Babies, I guess, which is a much more better, more interesting movie. So anyway, I could go on and on, because I saw some potential here, and I liked these characters. And the one character who showed up for a moment, I think he represented fear and doubt, and that was like, that moment where they were like, are we going to engage this guy and insist on bringing him into what we're doing? There was another weird moment about her being upset that Lerner tried to protect her. I thought that was a little bit agenda-driven, but that's as far as I'll go with that observation, and that's it, MV5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Next up is, who is it? Oh, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you're up. Characterization and acting.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I'm not sure there's a lot to add here. As everybody's already said, there's just 4 characters. I did like, however you pronounce the guy's name, Lord or whatever it was. And then Roland. I did like, I did kind of like him. It just, unfortunately, as the story just didn't go anywhere. It just kind of drug on. You've seen that romance starting between the two, and it just, them starting to like each other, and it just, once again, to me, just wasn't great dialogue. It just didn't drive anything. I agree, this movie does seem like it was, a journey kind of movie, or a quest, but even a quest was just kind of dull. It's a little bit like, I guess, watching somebody, I guess, mine something on a video game, just watch them hours and hours just hammering rocks, that's kind of the way this felt. So I like them. They just, once again, they didn't really develop their characters much. There was those odd quirks, it's like Virginia brought up the part where he tried to protect her, she got upset, but then that was just kind of it, and then we had the one character out in the middle of nowhere that they came across. Once again, he didn't really drive the story forward. It was just, she asked him, did he know? He didn't know nothing about the lake. He just told him that he came from the direction they were going, was he didn't like it there. That's all he would tell them. So what they do, they keep going that direction until they find the battery and power her back up again. So really, once again, we thought we was going to have maybe something happen, and then it didn't. That seems to be the theme of this movie. Looks like something's going to happen, then it doesn't. And it's that way in almost every scene. So it's a little strange. Yeah, then of course our fourth character would be Susan the robot. It was okay. I mean, it was, I guess, because, I'm not sure, I guess because they could record everything. That's why they had it be the narrator. Maybe the best acting award goes to the puppeteer that ran the eyes of the robot. You can tell a lot by the way it was looking, what it was thinking. So there you go. That's their best actor. Now, the acting was fine on this. I just don't think there was a lot to work with. Movie with a lot of potential, I think. Probably want to watch it again. So yeah, as always, just another one of those potential. Anyway, back to that. KB9S, okay.
Okay, thank you, John. Next up is Brenda, WB50.
This is WB50ZL. Well, the strange guy in the desert, I think he was kind of a metaphor for our society. How many people have we known? They have a job, they don't like it, they change jobs, they don't like that either. They're never happy. And that's basically what he's saying. I wasn't happy there, and I'm not happy here, so now he's moving on. I presume he's looking for that happiness somewhere. And, a large theme to this movie is the search for happiness. Is that the point of life, to try and be happy? Because that's what the girl said. She said, I just want to be happy. And Leonard wasn't quite like that. He was, weren't sure what he was up to. He's just traipsing out on the desert pointlessly. He didn't have a plan or a purpose or a goal. He just kind of aimlessly wandering. The girl, she's looking for the Crystal Lake. And, she had her purpose. There's this song by a group called Granddaddy. I'm not familiar with them, but that term of beautiful is, well, the name of the movie, Everything Beautiful is Far Away. It's from a song they did. They also have a song called The Crystal Lake. So I've read some reviews. They seem to refer to that maybe it's relevant to it. I may look them up later and see what that's about. The actors are pretty good. They did their job. They portray what they're supposed to. And and the robot too. Yeah, she had way too much personality for a robot. And I figured that was going to end badly, but it didn't. I thought she and the girl were going to conflict over being the queen bee, and was kind of surprised when they got to be friends. But I thought they were setting us up for some conflict there, but they didn't. All right, back to that. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Next up is David, W5EBB. Characterization and acting.
All right, thank you, Tom. Well, again, true, we had three characters here. Leonard, practical, backpack full of gadgetry. You never knew what all he had in there until they needed something. And then you had Rolla, the free-spirited, but focused and driven character to achieve their goal to get to Crystal Lake. And Susan, now her voice was interesting. If you've played the video game Portal from about a decade ago, that synthesized voice sounds just like the character from Portal. But in Portal, it's supposed to be your guide also, but it ends up being kind of a psycho adversary. But that character, Susan, does ultimately reveal that AI really doesn't care about the people. It's just following its training data and its programming. And when it reveals that when she said, "I missed you," it was only because she was programmed to say that after not being turned on for 96 hours. And Leonard perhaps has the epiphany that AI is not a substitute for human companionship. But again, at the inconsistent ending, they try to anthropomorphize Susan nonetheless. But, the characters were minimal, but okay. And just to add one addendum in this final round, I think, the music was interesting. It was like a detuned set of ringtones with a Philip Glass type simplicity. And if they were going for otherworldly, then I think they hit the mark. W5BBB.
All right, thank you, David. Well, gang, I don't have much to add to this as far as characterization. I have nothing to add to it because I fell asleep through most of the film. So I think everything's been said that could be said, and you saw more than I did. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, with this round, we do have the one final round. We are at midnight, but I will go ahead and ask, anybody have anything they want to bring to the net this evening that they would like to discuss? Either still special effects, music, something like that. You can talk about that or something we missed. Please come with your call, and I'll just go down the list of whomever has anything they want to say. Please come now.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato.
N5BB.
Okay, got W5BLT, N5BB, and there was a double. Who was the third?
NV5S.
Okay, number 3 is Virginia. We'll start at the top. W5BLT, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, two things. One, some of the reviewers seem to like the music on this. I'm not sure that I don't know. I don't know that I would study to it. I thought it probably fit the film. But I read one reviewer said they could see themselves studying to this. I don't know that I couldn't study to it. But anyway, the other thing I was going to say, Tom, I know you fell asleep. Remember my secret, if I find the movie 45 minutes or so instead of an hour and a half. Anyway, that's all I got. W5BLT.
Good morning. The time is 12 a.m.
Something I need to learn. I used to do that with training. I could speed it up and go through the training, but then I wouldn't get the minutes credit for it, so I don't know. Bill, N5BB, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, I can't believe that I stupidly forgot Susan in my characterization list. Susan the robot. It was interesting that the robot wasn't just the robot. It was Susan.
The building.
The robot had a name and a little bit of a personality. I thought that the special effects on the robot were excellent. They decided that they had a robot with no body, which was much easier for them to do in a low-budget film. I mean, they couldn't have done a full articulated robot, but a head where all they had was the two eyes. They did a pretty good job on that. I liked the way, the eyes were very realistic looking, and I loved the way that they looked around at different angles at different times in an interesting manner, and I thought that was interesting. When they asked Susan what direction they wanted to go, you notice they kind of rolled her eyes one direction, like this way, which I thought was an interesting little way of doing that. I think that was great direction. The directing and the special effects working very well there to make that work. And I thought it was interesting that late in the movie, he was screwing around with the back of it. Again, how could he program it with a screwdriver in the back of it? It would make no sense. But anyway, and he told the robot, I've changed your goals. And he tried to add some self-realization or something. And the robot was always asking about its body, and then at the end, he gave it self-realization, so maybe the robot could do something about that request. It had been deferred earlier. The robot said, when Rolla, the woman, said, should we work on finding you a body right now? And Susan said, no, we need to get you guys alive and to your goal first. So the robot's goals were twisted around, so at the end, he supposedly programmed Susan to put its goals first. One thing I thought was very interesting, and I hope somebody else heard it better than me, at some point, Susan the robot was discussing with Lerner about something that wasn't available anymore. I didn't know if it was part of the body or the power supply or a battery or something. And Leonard got very defensive and said, it's a long time ago. I forgot what I did with it. I traded, I can't remember what happened. But he was very, very defensive. So I can't remember what the topic was that he got rid of or what brought that up. But what I'm wondering is if Leonard purposely took the body away, traded the body away from Susan so that Susan was tied to him, that Susan couldn't, go off and other things, but it was literally, he literally carrying Susan around, initially on his back, which was kind of rude, where Susan couldn't even see ahead.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Oh, yeah, it's getting late. This is N5BB. So, I wonder if anybody remembers exactly that scene where Leonard got really defensive and said, "Oh, don't push me on that. I forgot what happened to those electronic pieces or body pieces or whatever it was." But I think that was part of the plot that I kind of missed, and I wish I'd gotten it better. Anyway, I thought the best special effect was just the location. Talk about an amazing view of all those sand dunes and the cinematography. And then they get to the huge lake or ocean or whatever, the birds there. It was really an amazing experience to witness all that. And also the fact that the sand was unblemished. And then when they were walking around, you could see their tracks of where they were. All of that was just amazingly done, and it seemed so pristine. And they photographed it in a way where it was not obvious there was a camera crew or anybody else there. It looked like those characters in the middle of nowhere. So I think they did a very good job. So I think great direction and production. I just wish I had been able to listen to what the director told the actors about their motivations and everything. I would really wanted to hear that because I'm a little confused. That's all I got in 5BB. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And next up is NB5F. And Virginia, just to let you know, the timer is back on, so you may want to drop carrier from time to time. Otherwise, you'll get the repeater will lock you out. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I will remember that, and I will try to make this as brief as possible. To answer Bill, the thing that he got rid of was a heart monitor that Susan used to monitor his. And I think that was in that scene where she was obviously micromanaging him already, and I think he was being evasive because he felt defensive because she was kind of trying to. It's that the balance between wanting someone there for a little codependence versus not wanting them to control you. So unconsciously not ever giving her a body and not ever finding a way to get her all the way back up to speed, but still having that, that kind of blank slate, that you can project a companion onto, kind of like I said, Wilson in Castaway. So anyway, my take is, as I've listened and talked about this movie, I don't know that I'll ever go back and watch it again. But it does kind of remind me of 2001 a little bit.
W5FC.
Because it seemed like a big nothing burger to a lot of critics at first, and it was because it, like this movie, sets up all these tropey things, and it doesn't really pay off. You think it's going to be this guy with an AI attachment, to some artificial personality, and then a real person comes along and shows him, what life can really be like, and it was that, but it wasn't really done in the obvious way, and I think that's what I've been wrestling with. And I think the point at the end that Bill also brought up about him reprogramming Susan for self-realization was actually, and it did, it changed all of her goals, and they were much more sympathetic with the goals of the humans, and I think that just represented Lerner's character arc from being just, I got out of the city, I'm surviving, I'm existing, and then this person comes along, and, she has this goal, but then really what for her, she even says as much, is that I really like you, and my goal is happiness, and the happiness is in the journey with him. And there's a goal, yes, but it's kind of a life lesson that we're all, we need to find the joy and happiness in the journey and the people we like and like to be with. And it wasn't about romance, and I think that's what is kind of throwing people off, is that it was fine for her to just like him, platonically, like, I just want your companionship, and maybe that romantic thing would come later, but that was never really, it's what we expect, but it wasn't really even hinted at that much. It was just like, hey, I really like you, and she didn't feel threatened by the AI, the robot, because it wasn't about possession, it was just about companionship. So as I've thought about this, I really actually think there's more to it, and it is more subtle, even if it's not a great movie. It at least attempted, I think, to do something a little more subtle. I thought the music was kind of cool. It was like the synth music was very sci-fi, like those mid-'80s science fiction movies. It made me think of those. Like stuff like The Wizard of Speed and Time and that kind of stuff, that sort of style. And I kind of liked it. It still had a little bit of minimalism to it that I don't care much for, but it had something to it, and I also liked that they would switch, and there would be moments of this kind of ethereal, almost spiritual, almost like, cathedral, choral music, and so the music seemed, appropriate and interesting, and I think it was trying to carry forward the theme, and the cinematography, the location, as Bill said, that the location was really interesting, and I did keep wondering, where is this place? Because it was so uniform, these very uniform sand dunes with very, very light flora, not much flora, and I thought that pretty, it was creative, it was picturesque, it was artistic, it had good lighting, it was not the dreary, drab, brown, murky, greenish, brown, hazy bleh that I'm used to seeing. So overall, I found the movie fairly likable in V5F.
Let me throw in. Thank you, Virginia. I really appreciate that. And you're right. It was the monitor that he got rid of. So it was kind of to prevent Susan from micromanaging him, I believe, because she was kind of had a bit of that. Hey, I want one of those polycarbide fusion-centric energy cores, even if it's only charged at 50%. Ooh, I could use one of those at field day in 5BB. Thank you.
Oh, Bill, everyone would want one of those, even at 50%. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, we're going to call this one. It's 12:13, so I'm happy that it turned out that people enjoyed the movie more than I did. I think just simply because I fell asleep, but I'm glad it all worked out. All right, next week's movie is House on Haunted Hill. Might as well do the horror movie type of thing. This one's pretty good that way. From 1959, there's a Blade Runner vibe at the very beginning, and if you don't know what that is, you'll see. So, thank you all for participating this evening. And we'll be doing this again next week. So, if anybody would like to be net control for next week, that's fine by me. I don't mind at all. If you wanted to orchestrate it, because the good news is you're the last to speak, so you can build on the shoulders of giants, what people have said, and then you can add to it, as though you knew everything ahead of time, except I do a very poor job of that. All right, 7-3 to everybody. I'm probably going to head straight to bed. This has been a long one, but I did get a 2-hour nap today, which helped. I managed to sort of stay awake. See you all next time. This is KE5ICX Clear. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tom, for finding this movie. It was interesting, I think, as you can see from our discussions and how long we discussed. Like, you go to a restaurant, before you get to it, you need to clear away all the other stuff. And this wiped our minds free from a lot of the other bad movies we've seen recently. In 5BB Clear. Good night. Have fun in Corpus Christi.